What is a driver's actual time worth? We spent decades measuring how long a truck driver's allowed to work. I mean, think about it. We measure your drive time, your on duty time, your 14-hour clock, your 70-hour clock. We electronically record when that truck moves. We know when you're supposed to stop and we know when you're allowed to start again. But maybe it's time somebody started measuring what the driver's actually paid for those hours. You see, because I went back and I did some research on this, and what I found explains a hell of a lot about how we got here today. Let's go back before 1980. Interstate trucking was heavily regulated. The federal government controlled entry into markets and they substantially restricted rate competition. Then came deregulation in the 1970s and the Motor Carrier Act of 1980. Competition increased, the industry changed, and over time, long-distance truckload trucking became deeply built around piece rate compensation. Now, many of you are going to go, what is that? Well, I'm talking about cent per mile, percentage per load. Why? Well, because miles are easy to count. A company knows how many miles you ran. You multiply those by your rate, and then boom, there's your paycheck. It's really simple. Except there's one big old problem. A mile measures movement. It doesn't measure time. And a truck driver's job is a hell of a lot more than just driving. Pre-trip, fueling, loading, unloading, securement, tarping, paperwork, breakdowns, waiting on a dispatch, shipping at shippers, and sitting at shippers and receivers. I mean, think about it. How many times have you went to Associated Wholesale Grocery or one of these other types of, shippers or receivers, and it's 4 a.m. in the morning, you got to get out there and go in there and turn in your paperwork, and it takes you an hour to standing in line because there's 25 guys at 4 a.m. trying to unload their trucks. This is what I'm talking about. All of this takes time. A lot of you are looking for parking. So what happens is drivers start talking to me. A lot of them will say, well, 70 cents a mile sounds really good for a job. Well, and then drivers might tell me, Big Rig Nation, I made $1,500 this week and I run 3,500 miles. And I always say, great, but let's do the calculation that nobody's talking about. Okay, let's take the settlement. Let's divide it by the hours. Now we've got a real conversation because that 1,500 don't tell me what your time was worth. Okay, not until I know how long it took you to earn it. 40 hours, that's one conversation. 70 hours, well, that's another. 90 hours of actual work are 100. You see, now we've got a completely different number. And here's where my research really got my attention. Just in 2024, the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine completed a congressional requested study examining long-distance driver compensation and working conditions. And after all these decades, there are still major gaps in the data. We still don't have enough information to fully understand how compensation, working conditions, and driver behavior, retention, and safety all fit together. Think about the irony of this. And I've talked to so many drivers, and I feel like compensation is related a lot to safety. Okay? So, we spent decades collecting data about how long you're allowed to work. But we still don't have good enough driver level data answering what are drivers actually getting paid for their time? And drivers, the drivers understand this. They understand something's not right out here. You see, there's very powerful interests in this industry. Billions of dollars that move through trucking, and a lot of people benefit from the way these systems operate today. And look, am I going to stand here and tell you there's some conspiracy behind why we don't have better driver level data? No, I don't have to. Because I'm not interested in arguing about why we don't have it. I'm interested in doing something about it. So let's build it. And actually, we've already started this. We're only at the very beginning of this study, so listen to me very carefully. These early numbers do not represent the trucking industry. Our sample is just way too small. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But something that has already jumped off the screen at me is in our lease purchase category. We currently have, I believe it's 14 submitted pay periods in the early driver reported data. So it takes the system a little bit of time to go through these and check and verify them, make sure that they're legit. And what really jumped out is the effective hourly rate currently showing $14.34 an hour. You got to think, I mean, this is $14.34 an hour for lease purchase drivers. Now, listen to me carefully. I'm not telling you that lease purchase drivers across America makes $14.34 an hour. We don't have enough data to say that. What I am telling you is that these first 12 or 14 purchase pay periods have produced an early number that deserves a hell of a lot more investigating, more than we realize. So now I want you to know, is the 1434 a anomaly? I mean, when we get hundreds of submissions, does it become 25? Does it become 35? Does it become 50? Or does it stay somewhere around that $14? I don't know. And that's the whole damn point of doing all this, because we're not going to guess. We're going to measure it. And that's where all of you come in. You see, this industry knows how to measure everything that you do. You know, miles, load, fuel, taxes, tolls, insurance, permits, payments, deductions, even chargebacks. Everybody has their numbers. But what is your number? What are you actually making for every hour you give this job? That's what the Big Rig Nation driver pay study is trying to answer. And we're making it simple. It's going to be a long-term study. It's very simple. You take a picture of your ELD and a picture of your settlement. Then you tell us the actual hours you worked, and that's it. We'll show you privately what your compensation looks like against the time you gave the job. Your identity stays private. Your carrier's identity stays private. The public sees anonymous patterns in the data. And this is the next part that really matters the most. We're not pretending every minute you're away from home is legally compensable work, okay? We keep the measurements separate. Your ELD-documented time is one measurement. The driver-reported actual work time is going to be another. Your away-from-home burden, that's going to be separate. And your settlement compensation stands on its own. We're not going to mix them. We're not going to manipulate them. We put the numbers beside each other and let the math speak. You know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll collect thousands of submissions and discover drivers are being compensated incredibly well for their time. Good. If that's what the data shows me, I'll stand right here and I'll tell you. But if that $1,500 settlement sounds great until you divide it by the actual hours it took to earn it, well, you see, America deserves to see that too, and the people in Washington needs to understand it better. Look, I've helped many of you guys, one at a time, and I'm very proud of this. But I'm wanting to do something bigger for the trucking industry and America's drivers. I want to build something that can help drivers across this entire country, and I can't do that without you guys. I mean, you guys tell me all the time, we want change. So do I. But change isn't going to come from rumors. And it isn't going to come from, complaining on Facebook and social media sites. And it's not, it's damn sure not going to come from 10 drivers sitting around at a truck stop counter telling each other how screwed up trucking is. Change takes evidence. And I've already proved to you we know how to do that. So, look. One driver saying, I'm underpaid, that's a complaint. But 10,000 drivers bringing their ELDs, their settlements, and their actual reported time, man, that's hard data. That's something journalists can examine, researchers can study, it's something that attorneys can understand, and it's something that lobbyists and lawmakers can't simply brush aside anymore. Okay? So drivers, I'm not asking you to trust me with your career. I'm asking you to trust this process, because this isn't about exposing drivers. It's about giving drivers something they've never had at this scale, and that's evidence. Evidence built from your own records. Evidence that can show that what a truck driver's time is actually worth. So here's what I'm asking you to do. Go to bigrignation.com, one ELD, one settlement. Tell us the actual hours that you worked. And let's finally answer a question this industry should have answered a long time ago. We spent decades measuring how long a truck driver is allowed to work. Now let's measure what a truck driver time is actually worth. Because drivers, Look, at Big Rig Nation, come first.